Hello and welcome to another session. So in this session we will discuss about categories of test techniques. In section 4.1 is about categories of test techniques. So there are three categories of test techniques which are particularly mentioned in that syllabus: black box, white box, and experience based. So as you know, black box test techniques have different approaches for testing, as we used to see the system from black box, not going into detail, but in the white box we go into detail, and there are different techniques for testing we'll discuss later on. And experience based, as it shows that is based upon the experience of testers, so they have different techniques for testing. So as you know, we are in chapter 4, and this is the first topic in that chapter. Chapter 4 is about test techniques. So first technique is black box technique. So in the black box, test condition, test cases, and test data are derived from test bases that may include the software requirement, specification, use cases, and user story. So these tests in this case, our test bases are the software requirement, specification document. If there is any user stories written, usually in agile environment we have written the user stories and all those stuff. So test cases may be used to detect gaps between the requirements and the implementation of the requirements. As you know, we used to write test cases by checking the requirements, by reviewing the requirement specification document. So we by writing the test cases, we can also identify the gaps in the requirement. So coverage is measured based upon the item tested in the test basis and techniques applied in the test basis. So it depends upon the coverage. In black box, we have it depends upon the where in which test level we are. So coverage is measured based upon the items tested in that test level. For example, if we are in unit level, then there will be different coverage techniques we will discuss later on. So as you know, in black box text techniques, we have equivalence partitioning, we have boundary value analysis, decision table testing, state transition testing, and use cases testing. So in white box testing, test condition, test cases, and test sets are derived from test bases. In this case, our test basis will be software code, software architecture, detailed design, and other source of information. As we know, in black box case, our test basis were software requirement specification. So in this case, we have the code, because we are doing white box, white box testing. So coverage is measured based upon the item tested within the selected structure, for example code or interface. So in this case we are inside the code, so our test basis measuring the coverage is will be different, we'll discuss later on. So specification are often used as additional source or information to determine the expected outcome of the test cases. So in the specification document, usually it is everything is written, so we derive the test cases from that. So in this case, we identify the outcome of the test case. So in the white box test techniques, we have statement testing and coverage, and decision testing and coverage. So these two techniques are applied in white box. So in Bagda we have statement testing. We test all the statements in the code, and the other technique is decision testing and coverage. So we'll discuss how we can do the decision testing, and how we can use the decision table and so on. So in experience-based testing techniques, we have error guessing, and it is based upon the experience of tester. So they use error guessing. They guess based upon their experience. They know that it is likely that this bug will be there. They used to do exploratory testing and checklist-based testing. And so in checklist based testing, they have the checklist, and so they identify. In exploratory testing, they explore the product, and they identify the issue based upon their experience. So in experience-based, common characteristics of experience-based test techniques include the following: test condition, test cases, and test data are derived from test bases. In this case, our test basis will be the knowledge of tester, developer or user, and their prior experience doing testing in these work products. This knowledge and experience include expected use of software, its environment, likely defects, and the distribution of those defects. The international standard ISO ICE IEEE 29119-4 contains description of test techniques and their corresponding coverage measure. So choosing the right technique for our project is very important. So when creating test cases, testers generally use combination of test techniques to achieve the best result for their testing effort. In this case, they can use experience-based test technique. For example, they can use error guessing with black box text testing, for example, boundary value analysis, and so on. So they use combination of technique based upon the project and the requirement. Some techniques are more applicable to certain situation and test level, other are applicable to our test level. In some techniques, if we are in unit level, then we will apply the white box test techniques that will be more suitable because we are doing white box. If we are in the higher level, for example, doing user acceptance testing, then black box test technique will be used. The appropriate level of formality depends upon the context of testing, including the maturity of test development process, time constraints, safety and regulatory requirements. For example, if there is a strict safety and regulatory requirement, then definitely we should do automated unit testing, and then we should start testing earlier. The knowledge and skills of the people involved, the software development lifecycle model being followed. So the choice which test techniques to use depends on number of factors. For example, type of component of system, and the type of component of system, the component of system complexity, regulatory standards, customer and contractual requirements, risk level, risk types, and test objectives. So choosing the right techniques by understanding these factors is very important because it affects depends on available documentation, tester knowledge, and skill set. So if tester is more skillful, has knowledge, then it can do combine all the techniques, can identify more bugs in the work product. So it depends available tool. They have the different tools available, experience on that tool, then they will be able to identify more bugs quickly. Time and budget is very important because we have if we have given that lot of time and budget, then we have a time to do some research analysis on tool techniques, and we can identify more bugs. Software development lifecycle model and expected use of the software, previous experience with using the techniques on the component system to be tested, the type of defects expected in the software component. Okay, that's it. We have come to end of this session. In the next session we'll discuss about black box test technique in detail. Till then, bye.